Okay, hello everybody. Yom Yerushalayim is not particularly popular in Israel. The rabbi on Shabbat spoke about this, that there's not enough people that take it seriously. Now, look at our room here. We have a nice full crowd. We have a number of people on Zoom as well. I'm not comparing for any particular reason, but just pop your head round the door into the Beit Midrash. There's a dozen people there, max. People are not understanding the significance of Yom Yerushalayim. The Rav pointed this out on Shabbat and asked everybody to be part of the program to encourage everybody to understand the importance of Yom Yerushalayim. A picture paints 1,000 words, 1,000,000 words, whatever it is, the expression. Everybody knows that picture, right? David Rubinger's famous photograph of the 3 paratroopers. Did you know that one of them lived on my street? One of these 3, I think it was this one. You think he was here, he'd tell you because Dickie knew him. And he lived on Hachatzabim. But that's a very famous photograph, isn't it? What I'd like to do now, we have just over half an hour. David Altman, who knows everything there is to know about everything. Those of you who go on our Tiulim, please God will have more of them after this wretched war, will know that David Altman knows everything about everything. But one of the things he knows really everything about is the history of Eretz Israel. And I'm going to ask him to give us in 10 minutes, a short summary of the event of June 1967, which led to the reunification of Yerushalayim. And then I'm going to ask some hard questions about
is the king.
You have to stand here, David, because you have to be on the screen. Yeah, they're at home. Okay.
Good evening, everybody. We are not going to talk too long, just headlines, because the story of Jerusalem in 1967 can be told for long hours. But we go to the main points. In May 1967, Israel was in the most terrible situation since it was established. It was exactly 19 years after the state of Israel was declared as an independent state by David Ben-Gurion. Suddenly, our neighbors decided that they want to destroy the country. At that time was a very charismatic leader in Egypt, Gamal Abdel Nasser. Hitler is Gamal Abdel Nasser, Gamal Nasser, and Gamal Hitler. This is what people say. Abdel Nasser was ready, and he had the power because he had a lot of supporters in the world. He was one of the leaders of those countries that not belonging not to the West and not to the East. Marshal Tito, Nehru, Abdel Nasser, he was in a good company. And he was sure that Israel is lost because the situation was so bad that people were asking, who will be the last to turn off the light in Ben Gurion now? Because everybody is living. And it was really terrible time. And then, by miracles, at the 5th of June, 1967, the order was given. And the Israeli Air Force did something that never happened before and not after. In 3 hours, we destroyed all the air forces of Egypt, Jordan, Syria, and Iraq. All these countries had more than 700 jet fighters, and we succeeded to destroy more than 450 on the ground before they took off. And this was an enormous change. According to the original plan, Brigade number 55 of the paratroopers they should fight in Sinai Desert. They were not prepared for Yerushalayim. But suddenly, after the first day of the war, the Israeli army was very, very successful. And Israeli tank units covered 4 times as long as much as was prepared from the beginning. They did 4 times more than was in the plan. In this situation, the king of Jordan made a very terrible mistake. From the very beginning, there was an agreement. The Jordanians are not participating in this war. And Levi Eshkol, a very moderate prime minister, that was the last one who wanted to carry out wars, he agreed that if the Jordanians are not participating in the war, nothing will happen in Yerushalayim. But against all the agreements, at the 5th of June, the Jordanian army started to shell the civilian population in Jerusalem, in Yerushalayim. 59 people were killed, and many, many others were injured. This is something that also the people didn't hear about. And then, like in the war, like against the French plan. At the last moment was given the order to Brigade 55, commanded by Mordechai Gur, was later the chief of staff of the Israeli army, to move to Yerushalayim. Instead of parachuting in the area of Rafah, they got an order to go by buses to Yerushalayim. They arrived in Yerushalayim at the 5th of June in the evening. And immediately they started to plan what should be done. And only 2 days later, the order was given that Jerusalem should be unified and liberated. This was not an easy fight, my friends. 183 Israeli soldiers were killed in the war in Yerushalayim, just in Yerushalayim. It was not given as a present to us. Heavy fights face to face. Not long ago, we were on a tube in Yerushalayim, remember, on the Yom Yerushalayim. This was a terrible fight, because the day before, the king of Jordan came there, and every one of the soldiers there swelling to die there and not give up the war, to fight till the last moment. And after the ammunition hill was taken, and we took control of the Mount of Olives, Har Zaitim in Hebrew. And all the preparation was done. Mordechai Gur was sitting on the top of Mount of Olives and saying, Nua, move to the old city. And we will meet by the Kotel. This was the first time in the history that the Israeli flag was on the top of El Saros and the Golden Dome. And then Mordechai Gur said, Al Habayit Beyadenu. It means the mountain of the temple is in our hands. One day, Yoram Gavon, the famous singer, said, What a guru, you can hear me? He died long ago. Al Habayit Lo Beyadenu. But the situation is that many, many years passed since then. Because we lived quickly, 57 years, not less. We are 57 years after Yerushalayim was liberated. Of course, many people had dreams to build the Mikdash. The Rabbi Ovadia himself said something very interesting. We tried 3 times. We are talking about Beit Rishon, Beit Sheni. In Beit Sheni, we had more than 1 time. This is a different story for another lecture. And then Ovadia Yosef said, this is which I want, 2nd time, 3rd time, it worked. Now, if we want to know one, then the Masjid Yerushalayim, he should build it by himself. I don't know if I'm right or not, I agree with you. This is not a word for human beings, not especially not in this world. Because God can do everything. And if you decide, it will be. So what is important to say? This day, Yom Yerushalayim is not something that we don't take seriously. For me, it's a very important day. My unit was not in Yerushalayim at that time. We were in the area of Gaza. At that time, Gaza, whatever you want, 200,000 people, not more. Now, quite 2.5 million. You know what happened since then? But this is a different story. I'm trying to be concentrated on the main points. The Tzarchanim, the paratroopers, these were all reserve soldiers. Don't forget, the regular units of Tzarchanim were fighting in different places. They went to the Golan Heights, they went to the Suez Canal. Tzarchanim, Brigade 55, they were the people who liberated Jerusalem. These were the soldiers of Ariel Sharon. He is the one who created this unit from nothing. And this is a very proud unit. They took part in all the wars of Israel. Some of them, by the age of 70, they are doing reserve service in this war also. Because they have a lot of experience, and they bring their experience. They're not fighting on the ground, but they can help a lot. What I'm trying to say, Yerushalayim was taken by the same thing. It's the next from Shamayim. When we were in a war situation, only 2 weeks before, we came to the time of Mashiach suddenly. But you know, to keep things like this, you should be very honest. The people should be united. But Jewish people have a nature, I don't want to say anything wrong and bad, have a nature to destroy good things. They build it and they do all the best, and the last moment they do something and it doesn't work 100%. But Baruch Hashem, we are here in the country. We had a big problem a few months ago, but we will solve this problem. We will come up from this. This was a warning from heaven. Because you know what will happen? Chas v'chalila. If all what they plan would succeed, this is also a different story. And this is also a subject for a different lecture. But the fact is that Yerushalayim is in the hand of the state of Israel. The mayor of Jerusalem nowadays, Moshe Lemon, is a great surprise in the positive way. He is the one who finds a way to keep the Arabs relaxed in Jerusalem. You know what does it mean? Can you imagine in those days, if these 200,000 Arabs in Jerusalem would start to make problems, you know what would happen. But all of a sudden, from Shamayim, it's done. That not all the troubles coming at once. And I believe deep in my heart that Bezrat Hashem, this nest that happened 57 years ago will continue. We have ups and downs, but from this big point where we are now, we can go only forward. Thank you very much.
Thank you, David. Yeah, Yerushalayim. As David said, we Jews have a habit of not agreeing with one another. Hands up, those of you who believe in the Torah. You don't believe in the Torah? Okay, you all believe in the Torah, right? Let me read to you something. Let me read to you something from the Torah. Parashat Matei, chapter 33 of Bamidbar. You want to look it up? Starting at verse 50. Vaydaber Adonai Moshe.
Hashem spoke to Moshe B'Arabot Moab, in the plains of Moab, Al Yarden Yericho Lemor, by the Jordan, the Jericho, saying as follows: Daber b'nei Israel, speak to the b'nei Israel, ve'amarta alehem, and you shall say to them, Ki atem ovrim et hayarden el Eretz Canaan. When you will cross over the Jordan into Eretz Israel, v'horashtem et kol yoshvei haaretz mipneichem, and you shall acquire or drive out the inheritance of the land before you. Va'ibadatem et kol maskiotam. You shall destroy all their prostration stones, the Art Scroll says. All the places where they worship, you shall destroy. Ve'et kol tzalmei masechotam ta'abedu. And all of their molten images places you shall destroy. Ve'et kol bamotam tashmidu. And all their high places where they worship, you shall destroy. V'horashtem et haaretz v'shavtem ba. And you shall possess the land, and you shall dwell in it. Ki lachem natati et haaretz lareshet ota. Because to you I have given this land to possess it. And then he goes on to say, and if you do not drive out the people from before you, they will be as pins in your eyes and thorns in your body if you do not remove their bamotehem, their high places, their altars, their worshipping places. That is what we are told to do. And then HaKadosh Baruch Hu says like this: and that which I would have done to them, I will do to you, says God. Very clearly. We are given an instruction in Parashat Maseh. Now, I have been very, very careful over the 15 years or so that I have been here not to display my politics in any way. I'm going to break that rule tonight. And I'm going to upset just about everybody. Because those who have political leanings to the left, I'm going to upset you. And those of you who have religious leanings to the right, I'm going to upset you as well. So there you are. You have been warned. Okay? This pasuk, these psukim in Parashat Maseh tells us very clearly what we are to do. David has explained to us, and we all know, because we all fail, most of us here will remember 1967. Most of us will know what it felt like prior to the war. Did you know that Tel Aviv municipality dug 14,000 graves in May 1967 because they were expecting a complete massacre? That's how bad it was. And Nifir occurred, miracles occurred in 6 days. And we were given Har HaBayit. Har HaBayit b'yadenu. And as David said, the Israeli flag was raised on the Al-Aqsa Mosque and the Dome of the Rock, the Mosque of Omar with the golden dome there. And what happened immediately after that? Moshe Dayan gave the order to withdraw that flag and to take that flag down. The commander of the troops was Uzi Narkis. The chief rabbi of the IDF at the time was Rav Shlomo Goren. I'm going to read you a quote from a book which I recommend to all of you. It's called, surprisingly, 1967, okay, by Tot Segev. It's a tremendously well-written book with all the information you could ever want. Listen to this. Find it. Can't really find it. because the piece of paper fell out. Never mind, I'll tell you what he said. Rav Gorek said to Uzi Narkis at that time, on that day, when he said, Har Habayit Biyadenu, he said, now is the time, blow up the dome, blow up the Al-Aqsa Mosque, blow up the Mosque of Omar. Tomorrow will be too late. You could do it now under the cover of war. That's what Gorin said. Rav Gorin said to Narkis. You know what Narkis said to him? Shut up or I'll put you in prison. You say that again, I'll take you to prison. This is a quote from Uzi Narkis himself. In 1997, he gave an interview to Haaretz, and he said that that's what he told Gorin, and the moment was lost. The moment was lost. We were told in Parashat Masei what to do. So what did we do? Instead of doing what we were told to do in Parashat Masei, we immediately gave it back to the Waqf for them to do what they were doing, so-called status quo. Who are the only people in the world who are not allowed to pray on the Temple Mount? The Jews. Everybody else can go and pray on the Temple Mount, not the Jews. Harabite is not in our hands because we didn't do what we were meant to do. That is my view. That was the view of Rav Goren. Many people disagree with that. The problem that we had was that the army at that time was run, and the government was run by very left-wing governments. And let me read to you from this book a quote from the then education minister, Zalman Arak, who said this: I'm telling you plainly that we don't need or want the West Bank. It will do us more harm than good. To this day, I love Eretz Israel more than the state of Israel, Aram said, but we will choke on it. And he said that the fact that we had what he described as the West Bank was going to choke the people. There are many people who believe to this day that the worst thing that happened to Israel in its entire history was the victory in 1967 in the Six-Day War. Can you believe that? I find that very hard to believe, but it's true. There are people who believe that in 1967 we did the worst thing we could possibly do. We have had 57 years of an illegal occupation, according to them, and it's given us solace and we've choked on it. Now, to a certain degree, that's true. We have had a great deal of difficulty because of the occupation. But we're the only country that when we won a war and we conquered territories, the first thing we did, without any conditions, was to offer to give it back, because that's what happened. Moshe Dayan said that he was waiting for the phone to ring. It's a famous quote from Moshe Dayan. He was waiting for the phone to ring. You know what? The Israelis picked up the phone and they offered Egypt, the Sinai Desert, within a week of the end of the war. They offered it them back for a peace treaty and they didn't take it. So the question that I asked in the title was, have we squandered the precious prize? On the one hand, I think we squandered the precious prize right back then in 1967 when we did not finish the job. That's my view. But we are now squandering it again. And the reason that we're squandering it again is the way we are treating the Kotel HaMa'aravi. The Western Wall, which, until fairly recently, when you could go through the tunnels towards a bit closer to the Kodesh Kodashim, was the closest we could get to our temple. The Western Wall is not, by the way, a wall of the temple. It's a wall that Herod built on a retaining bit when he expanded the Temple Mount. But it's the nearest we could get. And for thousands of years, when I say we, who do I refer to? The Jewish people, all of the Jewish people, prayed towards Jerusalem, prayed towards the Kotel, prayed to be able to go to the Kotel, For 19 years, between 1948 and 1967, no Jew was allowed to go anywhere near the Kotel. And in the time of the British Mandate, it was very restricted. You weren't allowed to blow the shofar at the Kotel. You weren't allowed to do all sorts of things. And now, we can, can't we? We can go to the Kotel and pray whenever and however we like. Only we can't. Now, I don't think I need to present my credentials as an Orthodox person. Okay, I am an Orthodox person. I believe in the Orthodox way of Jewish life. But I also believe that every single Jew has a right to daven in whatever way they wish at the Kotel. And I think that we have made a huge, huge mistake in not allowing non-Orthodox denominations to have their space at the Kotel. The Kotel belongs to the entire Jewish people. Now, I will not go to an egalitarian service. I will not go to where they have their service and they have men and women together and doing whatever they want to do. I have no desire to go. I don't think it's the correct thing halachically, and I will only go to a place to daven where it is separated. But that's my view. There are a whole bunch of Jews out there, Jewish people, my brothers and my sisters, who want to go and daven at the Kotel. They want to have a connection to God. I might think they're misguided and in the way that they do it. But they feel a connection to HaKadosh Baruch Hu. They want to go and daven. Let them go and daven. Give them a place to do so. Don't throw garbage at them while they're trying to pray to God. There was a Kotel agreement in 2016, which was not objected to. It wasn't vetoed by the ultra-Orthodox. It was sort of wasn't agreed to, but it wasn't vetoed. And then it was never put into place. It's still not been put into place. The egalitarian service is held near Robinson's Arch in a very temporary place with no funding from the state. The Orthodox, and I'm one of them, the Orthodox have made it a monopoly over the Kotel to the exclusion of many, many Jews. Now, what does that tell you when you see at the Kotel, the closest place we can get to the Beit HaMikdash? And what do we see? We see people demonstrating for and against, people, as I said, throwing soiled nappies, throwing rocks, throwing abuse at other Jews who are praying in that area. What does that tell you? If you are Kodesh Baruch Hu, standing on high, sitting on high, looking down on that, what would you say? If you were a father looking down at your children, bickering over a toy that you had given them, or not a toy, you had given them a wonderful present, whatever that was, I don't know, a computer, and you saw your kids fighting over it and beating one another up, what would you do as a parent? You would all do exactly the same. You'd take it away. You would take it away. That is what we are in danger of doing. We are in danger of HaKadosh Baruch Hu, Avinu Shem HaShamayim, our Father in heaven, looking down on us and saying, you do not deserve the gift that I have given you. The gift of Yerushalayim, I gave you that gift. There was no way in a million years, in 6 days, you were going to get what you got in that war. There was no way in 48 hours, as David said, it took 2 days. There was no way that was ever going to happen. It was Nisim, miracles. It was a gift from Shamayim. And we are busy squandering it. We are busy wasting that gift that was given to us. And we are in massive danger of HaKadosh Baruch Hu taking it away from us. I stood in this place here on Tisha B'Av, which was what? Av, Elul, Tishrei, 2.5 months before Simchat Torah. I stood in this very place and I said, be careful, because it's happened before. if we do not come together and stop fighting, remember what was going on in Tisha B'Av last year? All that fighting about the judicial reforms. Who even remembers the judicial reforms now? I said, if we don't stop fighting, then it could happen again. Who says that we have got a divine right to be here forever? We don't have a divine right to be here forever. We are here by the grace of God. And if we don't behave properly, we could, chas v'chalila, be chopped out again. And then what happened? We got, all right, patching ponic, which we're still suffering from. And when it comes to the Kotel, comes to Yerushalayim, if we don't value it, right? If we as a people don't value it, if we don't look at our brothers and sisters and say, okay, I don't agree necessarily the way you want to daven, but gesundheit, that's what makes you close to a HaKadosh Baruch Hu. You can have your place. I'm not going to go there, and I don't expect you to come to my particular shul in the at the Kotel. But why should I prevent you from going there and to disrupt what you're doing? No, that is like children fighting over the prize that HaKadosh Baruch Hu has given us. We dare not do that. We've done it for too long. There has to be a change, because if there isn't a change, that's the Khalila. And the problem we've got, of course, now is it's not 1967. I was here in Israel in 1968. I wasn't here in 67. I came here in May 1968. It's one of my first memories. This is my first memory of Israel. I came when I was a very little child in 1962. I don't remember that. But I came here in 68, and I remember every single minute of it. And I remember in 1968, the way the Arab people did not lift their head up off the ground. They were completely and utterly dejected. Now, I'm not crowing about that. I'm not saying that's a wonderful thing. It was a fact. It's not the same now. And if we, HaKadosh Baruch Hu, is quite easily give a rod to somebody else, another person. He gave it to Nebuchadnezzar. He then gave it to Titus. Say, don't give it to somebody else. We have to do our bit. We are squandering the prize of Yerushalayim by the way that we behaved. I personally believe that we squandered it back in 1967. Should have listened to Rav Goren, should have done what they needed to do, should have followed the Torah and Parashat Maseh. They didn't. But at least now, what we've got, let's not ruin what we've got. Let's all be one people. Am echad, belev echad. We do not have a monopoly. We, the Orthodox, do not have a monopoly over religion. We don't have a monopoly over the Kotel. That is my prayer for the future, is that by this time next year, Yom Yerushalayim, what are we in now? 5874. So by 5875 Yom Yerushalayim, we should have an agreement in place. Let the people who want to daven in a different way, leave them alone, let them do it, recognize that they are Jews, they're our brothers, they're our sisters, and we need to love every single one of them. At the risk of I don't know what, I'm happy to try and discuss. We've got 5 minutes for anyone who wants to vehemently disagree with me. And after 5 minutes, we're going to have a marriage, so then we'll have to stop. Any comments, questions? Shakar, thank you very much. Oh, yeah. Okay, well, we're going to have a marriage. Oh, yeah. You want to say something, Brian? Come to the front. We want to hear you on the Zoom. Come. Watch that wire there.
Rabbi, you mentioned that maybe we shouldn't have won the 6-day war. What would have happened then? That might have been much worse.
Okay, first of all, I never said we should have won the 6 days. I said some people said that it what they said actually, maybe I didn't make myself clear. What some people said was not that we shouldn't have won the 6-day war, because if we didn't win the 6-day war, we would have been in those 14,000 and a lot more graves that were there. We were looking down a barrel. But there were people, and many people, particularly in the kibbutzim and on the left, who felt that the occupation, which is what they called it, the occupation of the Arab lands of the West Bank, particularly the West Bank, was a big mistake and would come to haunt us, as this Minister of Education said, and we would choke on it. Of course, we here, I suppose most of us here, if we were to have to align ourselves with a particular group, I speak for myself, and I think I speak for quite a lot of you, we would align ourselves with Dati Leumi, religious Zionism. They were the people, the religious Zionists were the people that celebrated the most in 1967. Why? Because we regained Gush Etzion. The Gush was the heartland and remains the heartland of the religious Zionist organization. Sometime after that, it all got a bit hijacked by the extreme settlers, but let's just pull that to the side. But the religious Zionist heartland is Gush Etzion. You have to remember that in 1948, Gush Etzion suffered tremendously. They fought like lions to hold on to Gush Etzion in 1948, and they were massacred. And they fought to the last bullet and beyond, and they did not hold on to Gush Etzion. So in 1967, when we regained Gush Etzion, that was the peak. And it's from there that the strength of the religious Zionist movement, the Dati Leumi movement, as it were, has blossomed out. And so you will find that the group of people that hold Yom Yerushalayim, which is not just about Yerushalayim, it's about the whole experience of the 6-day war, including Gush Etzion. You will find that the group of people that this is most close to and they're most passionate about are the people like us, people who are religious Zionists, who see that the Zionism cannot work without religion, and religion cannot work without Zionism. Without it being at all a coincidence, last night's Tefillah Shiur happens to be about Birchat Binyan Yerushalayim. In our Tefillah Shiur, we're talking about the brachot of the Shemona Esrei, and this week we reached the bracha of Yerushalayim Irucha. And we spoke about this last night. And if you look in that carefully in that bracha, what do we say? Yerushalayim Yecha Brachmin Tashum Kasher Dibarta Ubnei Otza B'Karab Yameim Binyan Olam V'Chisei David Avdecha L'Tocha Tachin. David is in that bracha of Yerushalayim. Yerushalayim without David, what does David signify? Jewish rule, Jewish sovereignty. Yerushalayim and David, Yerushalayim and Jewish sovereignty go together like fish and chips, right? Whatever, they go together. You cannot extricate one from the other. The Yerushalayim without Jewish rule is not Yerushalayim. Jewish rule without Yerushalayim is not Jewish rule. V'chisei David Avdecha L'Tocha Tachin. Inside Yerushalayim, we have to have the rule of Jewish rule of King David's dynasty, and that is why Yom Yerushalayim is so important. Yes, Jeff.
The mistake was the occupation.
Agreed. Agreed. Sovereignty. We were the only people, as I said earlier on, that win territory in a war, and then immediately want to give it back. Sovereignty over those lands is part of the victory of 67, and it's part of the squandering of the gift of a Kodesh Baruch Hu. Time is up. Oh, Hannah, yes, Hannah.
The most controversial question. First of all, you said that you believe in the reform movement, the egalitarian movement, being able to pray however they wish. It could be men and women, it could be however dressed they are or undressed they are. And the Torah, you're misconstrued with the way you're thinking because the Torah is a set of laws. We like it, we don't like it, but it's laws. Only the covenant can go up to the base Hamikdash, to the Kodesh, no, what's the Kodesh? Only the Kohen Gadol can go to the Kodesh Kedoshim. He has rules. If he doesn't fit those rules, he's out. The Levine also have rules, and if they don't fit those rules, they're out. The Bnei Israel are allowed to go up to the Temple Mount, and even Goyim are allowed to come up to the Temple Mount within a certain line. So the problem with the way you're thinking is that in the Torah, it stipulates laws of the news. Okay, you can't be dressed the way some of the reform and conservative dress. You have to be pure. You can't say that you accept the Torah, the written law, and not the oral law. Okay, and this is the problem when we do the Pesach Seder. It's a Seder. It's an order. You can't say, oh, let's start with brachas, then let's go to the meal, and we'll go later back to Kiddush, and we'll do parkas whenever we feel like it.
Okay, I understand your point, Hannah. I understand your point. First of all, let me upset you even more to tell you that when I do my Seder, I do exactly that. I go all over the place with my Seder because, well, that's for another day. Yeah, we have a set of laws. You're absolutely right. One of the main laws that we have is the Aftah, the Re'ach HaKamocha. I'm not asking you or me or anybody else to join their services. They are Jewish people. They're entitled to do what they do in their space. And I believe that they should be given their space to do it. That's my view. And I fully understand where you're coming from. And I accept that view. But let me tell you, if
without the limits of acceptable norms, then that's not.
everybody's view of what is acceptable is different. Let me tell you, there are very few people, let me say it this way, there are very few women in this room who would be acceptable to many people at the Kotel, whether they're dabbling with men or not, because they haven't got long sleeves and they haven't got all their hair covered. Everybody has their own view of how to interpret the laws. I believe that everybody should have a time to marry, Yom Yerushalayim Sameach.
I don't agree with you, by the way, but not the way she. But I do agree with you about that.